I'm sorry, did I miss my cue?
No, not yet. I don't know. I
Okay.
haven't. Okay, now we're live on YouTube. I think we're good. So, hello and welcome. I'm Becky with Malvern Books. We're very happy to be with you this evening for another installment of the Austin Community College Creative Writing Department's Literary Coffee House and Open Mic. This time, our wonderful host is ACC's Charlotte Gullick, and the featured writer is our friend, the ever-talented and most scintillating W. Joe Hoppe. Charlotte Gullick is the chair of the Creative Writing Department at Austin Community College, and she holds an MA in Creative Writing from UC Davis and an MFA in Creative Nonfiction from the Institute of American Indian Arts. Her first novel, By Way of Water, was chosen by Jane Ann Phillips as the grand prize winner of the Santa Fe Writers Project. Her other awards include a Colorado Council on the Arts Fellowship for Poetry, a Ragdale Residency, and the Evergreen State College 2012 Teacher Excellence Award. Charlotte, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Becky. Thank you to you and Joe. And I think I always end up saying this, but to our lovely people who have joined us tonight, if you don't know this, please support Malvern Books. It's such an important store in our community, and they don't carry mass market books. They are here to support independent publishers. And if you're looking for a book, please work with them. And we're really grateful to partner with them. It's a beautiful store, beautiful people. And you know, when you like, who are the people who do the right thing? The folks at Malvern. So if you're looking to support people doing the right thing, reach out to them. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. This is an awesome crowd. So many students and fellow poets here. And it's really exciting to get to introduce Joe. We've been so lucky to have him as part of our faculty in the creative writing department. As a department chair, one of the things that I really value is the faculty who are there for the students. And that is certainly one of the things that we can always say about Joe. He is there for the students. And I'm grateful to all his service to our community in the different ways that he has helped all of us. And, you know, another cool thing about, well, he just recently retired. He also, I don't know if he's going to talk about this or wants to talk about it, but he has a few less of a finger, but that's probably not what he wants to talk about tonight. But maybe one of the cool things that will happen that comes out of Joe's retirement, in addition to car repair, is even more of his own work out in the world, so that we can get, you know, back to Joe's work. And so we're going to hear from him tonight. Just a little bit about him if you're not familiar with who he is. W. Joe Hoppe retired from ACC in December of 2020. He taught in the English department beginning in 1996 and then the creative writing department beginning in 1998. His work with students, in addition to raising his son Max along with his wife Polly Munir, is his greatest accomplishment. Good people. Tonight he will be reading from his chapbook, Hot Rod Golgatha, recently published by Obsolete Press. So before we do our invisible applause to welcome Joe, just to remind, he's going to read, then I'm going to ask him some questions, and then we'll do the open mic where you have 4 minutes to read. And if you are someone who wants to sign up, please do so in the chat. So please help me give some silent applause for Joe Hoppe. Woo, invisible and silent. So thanks so much for being here, Joe.
Honored to be here and very happy to be part of this. And I'm really happiest to see a lot of my students here. So that's wonderful. Oh, I guess you guys want to see my finger?
Well,
it's not real pretty. So this is what happens. All right, see. That's backwards. There we go. That's what happens if you drop a car differential on your little finger. My whole hand is bruised. But anyways, I'd like to thank Sam Wells for putting that little Band-Aid up on the poster. I thought that was really sweet. So I get to be, this is Hot Rod Golgatha. There we go. And it's available at Malvern Books, and it's #1 in the non-precious poetry series for Obsolete Books. And Obsolete Books is my buddy Rich Dana, who publishes stuff just for the sheer love of it out of central Iowa. So we'll start with the title poem. And so Rich really made this into a objet d'art, a work of art with silk screening, and there's pictures on the margins of every page. And I'm just over the moon to be part of it. So not only is it my work out there, but it's an amazing package. So Glgotha, as some of you know, is the hill of the skull, and that's Aramaic. So Calvary, like sometimes you see a Calvary church, is from the Latin como calavera, the skull, right? And so place of the skull, Aramaic, Golgotha, Calvary in Latinate. So, and the line comes from Allen Ginsberg's amazing poem, Howl. And so in Howl, Allen Ginsberg writes, they drove at breakneck speeds down old highways to reach Hot Rod Golgatha. Golgotha Hill, place of a skull-shaped hill, a hot rod or heaven of redemption where it all pays off. The work to get money, the money to get parts, the finding of parts, the scrounging of parts, the connecting of automotive accoutrements, the work once you get the parts to fit them all together in strange new ways like nobody has done before, and form follows function, insatiable beauty only to hit the road, hit it hard like a skull bone, like a free road agent taking your agency into your own wrench twisting, hammer banging, flame torch cutting, grinding, sanding, polishing, shining hands, a traverser of the boulevard, answering to no man, hot rubber on velvet, dark, soft asphalt, gasoline, vaporizing in the air, combustion chambered in shaved heads, higher compression, harder, harder, harder than any bone skull, gear heads grinding out the road song, so long, death song, escape velocity within 8,000 RPM, punctuated by dashed yellow lines until every single bit beyond the essential peels away like the skin off a skull where it's all left behind. So that's our title poem. This is a poem which is fun for me to read, and it's also fun for me to tell you that Daniel Johnston really liked it. Albert Huffstickler and I used to read, and I don't know what year this was, probably 93, 94, but we used to go once a month, and we went for over a year to the state hospital, the mental hospital. And the very first time, Daniel Johnston was there, and I recognized him and talked to him, and he really liked this poem. Daniel Johnston, if you don't know, the easy way to say is he's that guy who did the Hi, How Are You Frog. So this is called Tire Tracks. Something was wrong with his sense of touch. The only feel he felt was roll. Mad sci-fi doctor welded little Hot Wheels cars to the tip of each finger, so he knew what was what through their tiny wheels as he drove all over his grandfather's faded tattoos. This next one steals a line from Robert Creeley, one of my favorite poems of all time, I Know a Man, and also a debt of gratitude to Dennis Johnson. I could talk about Dennis Johnson forever, but the upshot is I got to babysit his Cadillac, and it was worth a poem. The poem's title is 5200 MSTA, and MSTA is old want ad talk for must see to appreciate. And there's also a video of this that came out really great. Charles Burmeister made that. So with debts to Robert Creeley, Dennis Johnson, and Charles Burmeister, the bums raise their heads from their knees and smile, stagger out into traffic with arms open wide, saluting wonder and proclaiming beauty when Dennis Johnson's Cadillac drives by. Romanticized in lipstick red reflection, sex waxes over the fenders like the glossiest valentine. Back in '74, this blonde outside Alpine rode me all the way to Phoenix. Car just like that. Heroic figures you can't ignore. 18 and a half feet of '73 Eldorado, 5,000 pounds, 501 cubic inches of mighty V8, power steering, power brakes, power windows, power ragtop, power on the cusp of emissions laws and gas crises. Why not buy a goddamn big car, goddamn big American car, enter the darkness that surrounds us with firm purchase? The few who I listen to urge me on with drive. Keep the top folded back and find the highway luminous. So we'll skip ahead a little bit. Well, let's see. Oh, this is a fun one. I'm doing the upbeat stuff. It'll slow down in a minute, but I did this as a piece with the I forget the name of the Drama Fest at Zach Scott, but I did this with David Jewell, who also writes beautifully about cars, and he has a piece called Those Cool, Cool Cars, and we did a dual thing. He was the driver, I was the mechanic. That's a two-lane blacktop reference if you're hip to that. But you've got to know what makes those cool cars go. But you've got to know what makes those cool cars go. Pistons pumping that solid engine block, crankshaft, cradle and connected, flathead, wedge head, Hemi head, tappets, riding camshafts, pushing push rods, rocking rocker arms. Open up that intake valve, let in the fuel air mix, close those valves down for an explosion. Open up that exhaust valve and let it all out, baby. You got to know what makes the suck, squeeze, bang, and blow. What is happening when you turn that key? Starter relays and ballast resistors, every amp and all the voltage straight to the starter. Got to crank her over, get those points, opening up electricity induced into those secondary wires, the big ones, cloth covered, rubber coated, maybe silicone, even tens of thousands of volts straight to the spark plugs. You got to jump that gap. You got to know what makes it go. When you step on that gas and that smooth throttle cable opens up a butterfly inside the carburetor so that cool car can soar. Niagara of sweet gasoline splashes into vapor, atomized along intake manifold cataracts, past the valves, then boom again. That hot exhaust, thunder, rushing rare air, catch it just right, make it resonate, a muffler throb, a longing song. You got to sing it. You got to know what makes those cool cars go. All right, here's a little smaller picture called Metal Flake Gloaming. Gloaming, of course, that twilight time. I like the color of the sky best when it's about 2 notches past twilight. Blue spreading deep as the paint on my old Sportster's gas tank. Dark 30 on a Matisse blue peach. The saxophone wings of seraphs hovering round us, heralding the night. Okay, we'll move ahead. This is a working poem. Let's see. A lot of my poems, they have a similar aesthetic, and at the heart of that aesthetic is being there and paying attention. And then my happy belief is being there, paying attention, and that will lead to joy and wonder if you're paying attention right. Lately, it's called chipping paint. Lately, focus comes at the business end of a single-edged razor, pushed by safe, gloved hands along imperfections in the tailgate of my old pickup truck. Cracks get widened into snow shovel gaps to slide up and over this adamant blade. A sharp-edged tsunami pushed by my thumb erodes coastlines of turquoise paint. A really good run goes inches at a time, curling up in a candy coat, brittle in its wake. Or trimly chipping around stamped metal letters, D-O-D-G-E, short lines excised without room for momentum. Underneath, rough rust, shining steel when I'm lucky and gentle, the placid gray of primer, but pink Bondo can show up unexpected. But then I start looking at the clock, dreaming of smooth and shining paint, cool green, blue, and bright white. Beyond the task at hand, it's time to leave when you're no longer there. All right. Here's a poem called More Miracles. If it was more recent, I'd include my retirement. I feel like I won. I never thought I would be this financially stable. I feel like, I played the game and I did it all right, and I won. I'm got a pension and everything. Woohoo! It's amazing.
Poet with a pension.
I know. A penchant is like when you really like something and like you want to see, like my friend Caton has a penchant for the Red Sox.
With a penchant and a pension.
Yes. And I got a pension on my finger, and so it was pensioned off the tip of it. It's also where they give you money. They call it ass money. You get money for just sitting on your ass.
Oh, well.
Month. Okay, so more miracles. I'm witnessing the likeness of Jesus again. This time as I grind rust from the left rear fender of a 51 Plymouth. Further up toward the peak where fender and car body join, a remnant of green paint resembles Iowa. I do not take this as some kind of sign to put my tools away and search for salvation in Midwestern cornfields. Instead, I keep grinding. Iowa turns into Aleutian archipelagos. The deep Jesus rust turns into a Holy Ghost. And here is the miracle. Me, these years now happy, own house, good job, family that loves me. There's a miracle for you. Oh, let's do a sonnet. Now, the great thing about this is you can't really tell it's a sonnet unless I tell you. But as you guys know, the easy way to check if a poem is a sonnet is there's 14 lines, the last two rhyme. You see that and you say, that must be a sonnet. You don't have to worry about the rhyme scheme, but I did follow it. So if you've ever been to Houston, you've seen the signs, right, for Buffalo Speedway. So this is a sonnet about Buffalo Speedway. Houston, Texas, 1979. Then never before 2 or 3 in the morning, we'd take out our adolescent angst in our parents' Vista Cruisers, estate wagons, safaris, our own Novas, Ramblers, Darts, maybe Mustangs. No, we were not the coolest. We knew our rides were lame. But we'd found the weedy tunnel that got us into the pits of the late, great, and abandoned Buffalo Speedway. Those cars we drove, mostly powered by a basic six. Attempts at racing would have been beyond pointless. It was just about gathering the herd, thundering round and round, relentless, raising dust on that half-mile oval's dirt until somebody crashed or we ran out of gas. All right. Yeah, I've just got 3 more. So I think that'll fit. This one's called Skin Pop. That's a drug reference, but it's also a funny thing, as we'll find out. I injure myself a lot working on vehicles, and this finger thing was awesome. Wait, there we go. Ta-da. Because now I can cross off my bucket list. I have always wanted to show up in an emergency room with something in a plastic bag, piece in a plastic bag. It wasn't a big piece. It was just the meat off my little finger and the nail. But I'm gonna check that one on the bucket list. All right. Underneath my truck, pulling apart crimped together wires and soldering them up like I should have the first time. I can't figure out where to place my arm. So when I reach out to complete my inexpert work, bits of molten solder drip down into my inside elbow. Spectacular shining metal sticks and burns. My skin smokes and swells up into a blister, popping loud enough for me to hear. Tomorrow I'll stand in front of my class looking like an IV drug user with a nasty abscess. Hey, Dustin. Hey, Justin. All right. This is Miller-Matic 130's Inferno. And I've abandoned my 51 Plymouth project for many reasons, but I learned a whole heck of a lot, including pretty much how to weld. And a Miller-Matic is a kind of welder. It's best when you're on your back, vulnerable, except for your big gloves, welding mask, and a welding blanket wrapped around, so as you lie there and the sparks and occasional red hot metal drip, your body goes somewhere else as you pull yourself along with the weld across a molten metal hellscape where you have the torch, the wand, the complete power, and you feel like the brightest of angels, heat and light within your hands. Lucifer bringing light, Prometheus bringing fire. All right, got a phone call.
It's one of those. It's one of those poetry agents.
Oh yeah, right. I just need to take the phone off the hook. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. So this is called 12-second quarter mile, and it's about drag racing. If you hit a 12-second quarter mile, you're over 100 miles an hour, and that's pretty damn cool. But I don't really have the skills. So this is the best I can do in that area. Sometimes I still get caught inside that gap between my hands and my head. Inabilities to cut a straight line, bore holes that are evenly spaced, paint without runs, lay down any kind of weld. I hang undercover with hot rod buddies, mechanics, craftsmen, sculptors, and visionaries whose thoughts flesh out into metal capable of 120 miles per hour on the drag strip. These words, so simple and forgiving, My poems routinely dropped, chopped, and channeled, lowered and louvered and sectioned and scalloped, faster than my fingers, though not so quick as my thoughts. How can I make them roar, to shake windows, smoke and peel out burning rubber clouds, shoot flames into the darkness, or even convey the time spent accumulating just the right accoutrements, grinding, sanding, sweet shaping, tripping over my tongue and onto this paper, every tool I've ever gathered in constant attempt to wrench this thing free. And that's that.
Fantastic, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you see Cecile's comment. We've been missing you.
Oh,
I have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Oh,
So I think you just answered one of them in the last poem, but I was thinking about the Venn diagram of poetry and cars and how you see that. And you might have just answered that. I don't know if you want to talk about it anymore, but like for you, where's the overlap between poetry and cars? Did I lose Joe?
Joe kind of froze up there for a second. I wonder if he needs to log back on or something like
where you
that.
guys? Let me log out here. Yeah.
It'll do. This is where I play some on hold music. La 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 da 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 da. We'll ask Matt how his program's going.
Hi, Matt. Cool, you're cool. They're cool.
I'm done. I graduated.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Yeah, I graduated in July, August, September, one of those months. I don't know. Because I was moving up here to Vermont at the same time.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. They asked me back to read poetry at their graduation this time.
Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Great.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you for tuning the guitar with me.
okay, I'm back. I had a hard time proving I wasn't a robot.
Did you get to hear my question, Joe?
No.
Oh, well, I basically said, I think your last poem answered this, but I was wondering if you could speak to us a little bit about, as you see it, the Venn diagram of cars and poetry.
Okay. Well, it's a way to combine two things that I love, and I'll say some of it might be shtick because there are not a whole lot of people writing about cars and working on cars in the same way that I do. But it's also a thing that's important to me. But it goes back to that original idea of close attention and wonder, and everything can bring joy, not just seasons and flowers or whatever. So, if you go out of your way and look to find beauty in things that maybe haven't been thought of as that beautiful. But growing up, and I grew up in Michigan, and knowing people and the whole aesthetic has always been of cars and that kind of thing, and machinery has always been pretty important.
Do you have an ideal reader in mind when you're writing?
That's one of those great questions. I used to. This is going to be really corny and horrible, but when I first started out, one of my ideal readers in the back of my head was Michael Joyce, who's this amazing human being who kind of invented hypertext. But I knew him when he was teaching creative writing at Jackson Community College. So it was my community college creative writing professor for quite a while. And then you just figure there's people out there who would get your jokes or know your jokes, and the people that I think would really like Hot Rod Golgatha may not even read poetry, which somehow I wish they could pick that up, but we'll see.
Do I ask you this question? Do I not ask you the question? So is any, like this collection in particular, you and I have had discussions about how we don't necessarily love elitism in the writing world. Is there any of that in this collection?
Well, there's a sonnet.
Yeah, that's true. So you're bringing it all together.
Yeah, but no, well, and in fact, I'm real proud to be part of this because the whole series is called Non-Precious Poetry.
Mm.
And that says it right there. But I also, speaking of elitism, I have been really happy with the 2020 Best Poetry Series, Paisley Rekdal, which is Rekdahl, I believe, chose them, and there's a real lack of preciousness in like 80% of the poems, and it's tremendously refreshing to see. We may have turned a corner, folks. Let's just hope so.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
I just have a couple more questions for you, Joe. I wanted, if you don't mind, how does sound factor in your first draft?
It's really important.
How does it factor in your revision? How much are you like reading it out loud? Because what you just read to us is such a auditory explosion, but was controlled. Like you're really strategic with sound. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, it's hugely important. And way back when, there was a chunk of time, like a couple of years, where I didn't trust my poems to just be alone on the page. I felt like I had to interpret them because sound and rhythm are so important. And this is long before the whole slam thing, which changed stuff. But if you look at a lot of slam stuff, it's got the same rhythm. There's, you know, it's anyway, but sound's really important. And I think it comes from paying attention to the lyrics and songs and you know, particular songwriters who I like a whole lot, like Tom Waits and Lou Reed and Paul Westerberg and Jonathan Richman, Ricky Lee Jones, up until fairly recently. Indigo Girls, I really like Indigo Girls. But sound is super important, even if you don't have music, or even if you don't have, you know, a beat going, or, you know, even if you're not trying to be hip hop, sound is tremendously important. And as most of the people here who are my students know, there's an amazing, again, we talk about joy, and I feel corny using the word, but it's there. Amazing pleasure to read good poetry out loud. You know, my senior year at University of Michigan, I had this really crunchy old professor, and all he'd do is read poems out loud, slowly and beautifully. And he said, "Isn't that great?" And I was like, "Yes." And that was all I needed. But yeah, it's very important. Important indeed.
And then I guess my last question, unless you want me, there's a question you want me to ask, is what you working on now, word-wise?
Well, I've got a couple things. I'm supposed to write about my finger, apparently. You know, things that happen. Had a poem I was going to read, but it's not in Hot Rod Golgatha, about, you know, the joy of vacuuming and hitting that reel, the cord reel, and watching the cord go back into the vacuum, and a job well done. So the same kind of stuff, and the same urge to look at the unexpected or places you wouldn't necessarily find things. But also today I made some pretty decent brackets for the underdash air conditioner on my 64 Valiant wagon I'm slowly restoring. So there you have it. And in June, I should mention this because it's really important. Polly and I are going to move up to Michigan and stay with my folks. And that'll be really sweet. And we're going to live on a Christmas tree farm that has been in, well, the land, not, it hasn't always been a Christmas tree farm. I helped plant a lot of those trees. But the farm, the land has been in the family since 1865, and that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. You will be dearly missed.
Well, we've got the internet, I guess. Yeah.
And we do have the internet. That's true. And thank you for talking about joy. There's nothing corny about joy. I think we don't know how to like relate to it lately.
Yeah. Well, you take it where you can find it, right?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Joe, for being such a huge part of our community. You and Polly are pillars, and you will be missed, but I'm not going to have an emotional moment right now because this isn't about me. So we'll move into the open mic. I have 7